Welcome to Digital Asset News. Take a top stories in cryptocurrency and digital assets and break them down to bite-sized pieces. Today, we've got some concerning news about what's going on in the markets, and I'm going to lay it all out to you, and you make the decision. But in all honesty, it's just a Friday. So first up, this happened yesterday. Biden will seek a tax increase on the rich to fund a child care and education. This is the President of the United States, Joe Biden, and why this really has caused mass panic when there probably shouldn't be. On top of that, I'm going to talk about how this first bill we talked about could just be a distraction for one of the main bills that just came about, which House Democrats passed the bill to make D.C. the 51st state. Still has to get to the Senate. But I got to tell you, this is where it all comes down to sleight of hand and magicians using their sleight of appearance about what is going on. So we'll take a look at those two things, and then we're going to bring in Shehan Cahndresekera, who is everybody's favorite crypto CPA, to calm everybody down about what is going on with this bill. But first, let's take a look at what the heck happened in the market yesterday, huh? Crazy. So we had a market cap of over 2 trillion, and now we lost 150 billion. What are you going to do? So again, traditional markets, once this story broke, the traditional market just took a huge dive. And in our market, we lost 150 billion. But, hey, this is crypto, and we are still affected by the tides of different things that are going on outside of our realm of control. So we've got Bitcoin price, 49,000. And one thing I want to talk to you about, trade the chain, sentiment analysis, right? Takes a look at all the different things that are going on in the internet, mostly Twitter and the websites for exchanges and cryptocurrency and whatnot. There still is, I want to show you a sentiment of what people are really feeling about what's going on. Let me blow this up so you can see it. This was surprising to me. And that is, do you see that daily sentiment for Bitcoin? Bearish. I'm not surprised on that. But what I am surprised is the neutrality that's going on in the top 4 or 5 currencies. A couple bearish here, but still very neutral. And people are not really flipping out. And there's a little bit of bullish here and there, and some bearish whatnot. So who's very bullish? Who is this? Pirate Chain. Well, I got to get some of that. That's enough. I've been on Trade the Chain for like 10 days straight, and it's always Pirate Chain going, very positive sentiment. I'm actually going to have to take a video on this one. But yeah, so I mean, Bitcoin dropped below 50,000. We're at 49. People were saying if it dropped below 50, it was going to 45, but it went to 48 and picked right back up. Ethereum is still 23.17. Binance Coin 502. And you can see right here in 24 hours, yeah, there was a big dip, but if you were like me, you're just like, thanks. And yesterday, what did I do? I bought Cardano, I bought StormX, and I bought Voyager. Now, if you watched my video yesterday on Voyager about what's going on, I didn't say anything about how awful the tokenomics was. I was just talking about the exchange itself and what was going on. I still believe in the team, still believe in everything. So that's a different story. Watch the video. I'll link at the very end. But things are going pretty good, in all honesty. I mean, yeah, we lost a pretty good market cap, but look, me and you have really taken our brunts. And this is just like, it was affecting some people, but for us, we've been here. Give us the facts, and we'll go from there. So let's just jump in and see what everybody was flipping out about over everything. So President Joe Biden came out and said, look, I'm going to tax the living heck out of people who make more than $1 million for their capital gains, which is really bad, right? For people who make $1 million. And that's awful. And this is what he said. He goes, look, this isn't a direct quote. He said, but this is from the paraphrase. I'm going to raise taxes on capital gains, the proceeds of selling an asset like a stock or a boat or cryptocurrency for people earning more than $1 million. This is very vague. I will just say this, and Shehan's going to talk about in a second. Effectively increasing the rate that pay on that income to 39.6% from 20%. So basically doubling, and this is long-term capital gains. Apparently, right? It's very jumbled and very muted. But again, I'll remind you, and we'll talk about this again, Janet Yellen came out not too long ago, 2 or 3 months ago, and said, hey, we're going to tax you on your unrealized capital gains. And people are like, what? And she just said that in passing, and then she kind of retracted later. But that even caused a big dip. So again, when people say news doesn't move the markets, you're wrong. News does move the market, and that's just the truth. So this is what's going on. We don't really have much information. This is just something that's, he's like, hey, I'm thinking about doing it. if you're outside the United States, first of all, it has to get through the House of Representatives, which this bill did right here. But then after that, it has to be talked about and actually agreed upon by Senate. And right now, all the senators, it's a direct 50-50 split in the United States. We've got 50 Democrats and 50 Republicans. And if they all vote on the party lines, then the person that would actually break that vote would be the vice president, who's also Democrat. So if this actually goes through, okay, then off we go. I can't tell you if it is or it isn't. The real question is when does it go into effect? And I'll let Shehan talk to you about that. So House Democrats, this is what I was really thinking about. He just came out and said it. There's really no bill coming forth. There's nothing on paper, but this has already gone through. House Democrats passed the bill to make DC the 51st state in the U.S. And if you're outside the U.S., it doesn't apply to you. It doesn't really matter. This does. Because we just saw what happened with the price of cryptocurrency. This affects everybody. But if you're like me, you're just like, great, thanks for the discount. So I'm not even going to, this is all political stuff. I'm not even going to read it. Let me just talk to you real quick. So here's the thing. The reason why this went through, debatable, right? But it does look like it's a little bit of a power type of grab. And people can debate this all the time. I don't really care. But Democrats really want this, and that's fine. That whatever it is. But to me, it kind of feels like Joe Biden's like, all right, so we're going to do this thing with capital gains and money and all the things that are happening, and watch over here. And what's this? And what's this behind your? 51st state. To me, it's just like magician sleight of hand. So in all honesty, they got this through the House of Representatives. Now they have to get it through Senate, but this is a little bit different. They have to have, I think it's like 60 votes or whatever else. So we'll see if this actually goes through. I think, in quite all honesty, is that if you're all about negotiation and you know how this works in Congress and going forth, you don't start with your real number. You start super high, then you start to work things around, then you go that way. Because just because they say, well, there's Democrats in there, they're going to jam it right through. Not so. It's all about political power and what you can actually get later on for what you really want, whatever that is. So if you want to spend all your capital on this one, go right ahead. But on different things where you have to have some kind of supermajority, it's not going to go through. These are just my musings. I think that there will be a tax raise. There has to be, because that's the whole thing with this helicopter money that we got. Someone's going to pay for it, and it's going to be you and me, and that's just how it is. So what I really want to do is just kind of break this down and just tell you like this. When in doubt, zoom out. There's been a lot of different things that have happened in this market, and a lot of different things that have made people panic and whatnot. But you just have to sit back and go, what's really going on? Who does this really affect? And how can I use this to my advantage? So what I want to do is I want to bring in Shehan Cahndresekera. We're going to talk about the accounting side of this and what he has seen in the past as far as raising of taxes, since he is an expert. And let's just jump in and talk to him. All right, so everybody, so we took a look at what's going on in the current news cycle, and thankfully, our man here, Shehan Cahndresekera, everybody's favorite accountant as far as cryptocurrency goes, was gracious enough to come on the show and just answer a few questions. Shehan, thanks for coming by.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Yet again, my man.
Yeah.
Yet again, here we are. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to quickly share my screen and just to make sure everybody. A quick recap: tax rates for long-term capital gains. Remember, long-term is over. If you hold everything for a year, then here's what we have. And then short-term, if you sell before a year, then you're going to pay pretty much just like it is in the normal tax rates, only for Americans, of course. So long-term cap gains, it just depends. You could pay if your filing status is single and you make $39,999, then you pay 0% rate on your cap gains. And then it just kind of goes over. But really, if you're looking at it, 15% is up to 441,000, which is a lot. And over that is 20%. Head of household, almost the same thing, to 469. Married filing jointly, 496. And married filing separately, over 248,000. So just keep in mind of that. And if they're all selling it short term, it's pretty much just whatever you make. And the top percentage is 37%, which, as we talked about, it's going to probably go up to 39.6 or somewhere around there. And that's only for people who make over, $500,000. So that's a nice little recap. And I brought on Shehan for a little bit of history and he'll talk about that. And then what this all could potentially mean, because we have no facts right now. We have no facts, and people running around like a chicken with their head cut off. So Shehan, take it away. Tell us what's really going on, or potentially could go on.
Yeah, I guess the big news is that, if you look at media like Bloomberg and Tweet Everywhere, everybody's like, okay, your long-term capital gain rate's gonna go from 20% to 39.6%, plus another 3.8% for net investment income tax, plus 13.3 for people who live in California. So you could literally end up paying, 50, 40, 55%, according to what you hear.
Mm-hmm.
But, there's a lot of, unknowns. So let me break down, one by one. So the Biden is pretty much proposing that if you make over $1 million, your long-term capital gains rate is going to go from 20% to 39.6%. So first you have to understand, okay, you had to make $1 million, because if you're making less than $1 million, there's barely any impact for you. There may not even be any impact. Now, I actually wrote an article about this on Forbes, and in 2018, IRS received roughly 150 million Form 1040s, individual taxes. And among them, only 540,000 people had adjusted gross income over 1 million. So that means there's less than 1% of the tax filers who would be subject to that doubled tax rate if that were to happen. Again, these are just proposals.
Right.
So there's just one fight that's going on. Everybody has to pay 40% tax rate. So that's not going to happen. If you're a millionaire, there's a small likelihood. And number two, we don't know yet how that 1 million is going to be applied. We don't know if that 1 million threshold is for taxable income or adjusted gross income. Is it applied per household, per person? We don't know those things yet. So that's what's really happening. And then that's on the long-term capital gain tax side. And for the short-term capital gain tax side, the highest tax rate we have right now is 37%. And Biden is proposing to increase it from 37 to 39.6% for the highest income bracket. And again, 37 to 39.6, it's not a big deal. It's a slight increase, but I guess the people are worrying about this long-term capital gain tax. The TLDR here is that if you don't have $1 million, just don't worry about it.
So if you're less than $1 million, not a big deal. And then I was thinking about it, because I think in this bull run, we're going to see a lot more millionaires come about as the bull run starts to continue. So the question I have for you was, and you explained this to me quite well, I have to do it again. If you wanted to cash out $999,999 worth of crypto, would you then be taxed at 20% based on what we know? And then maybe at that million threshold, let's say you cash out $1,001,001. So maybe that $1 gets taxed at 40%, but the 999,000 gets taxed at the max of 20%. That's what I was hoping for, but you had another opinion on that one.
So the answer to that question, depends on what type of capital gains that you're dealing with. It could be short-term or long-term. And again, we are speculating here, so I don't want to spread any FUD. If it is short-term capital gains, that $1 million used to have the 37% tax rate, and now it would be subject to 39.6, which is not a big deal in the grand scheme of things.
Right.
But the long-term capital gains it's not like a progressive tax. So say that if Biden were to say, again, I want to stress, if this were to pass, and if Biden says everybody whose taxable income is over $1 million will now be subject to a 39.6% long-term capital gain tax rate.
Right.
That means that entire 1 million will be subject to 39.6 versus 20%. Again, I'm speculating here because we don't know the actual mechanics and the specifics, but
Well, we'll see. So it could go either way. We just don't know. And then that is like one of the big things. So maybe it could, maybe it couldn't. But take us back a little time trip real quick. Talk to us real quick about Janet Yellen, and maybe 3 or 4 months ago when she came out and said, you know what, we're looking at unrealized tax gains.
Yeah, so this was the other tax fraud that we saw in 2021 Q1. So Janet Yellen came and said, we are considering taxing your unrealized gains, meaning those appreciated assets which you haven't sold. I haven't sold. Um, yeah, I mean, in the beginning, I was like, okay, this is never going to happen because, first of all, this is going to create so much issues, and this is not an equitable thing. I know
Right.
taxes suck, but then when they introduce these laws, it has to be equitable. So if you were to, introduce, unrealized gain taxes, then you should be able to take the write-off for unrealized losses. And if that were to happen, I'm pretty sure a lot of people will have unrealized losses, and meaning they can write off things without realizing any losses. And at the end of the day, the government might be losing out. And the second problem with that approach is that, I mean, you could have unrealized gains, but if they're taxing on you, how are you going to come up with cash to pay the taxes on the unrealized gains, because you haven't sold anything? So those are the two reasons why, that unrealized gain tax, would not come. That type of taxing system, does exist if you elect to do so. And, there's these hedge funds and very high net worth individual who can be elected to, be taxed under unrealized gains. But those are edge cases, and it's not going to be like a mainstream tax thing. In my opinion, it's not going to happen.
Yeah, and the reason I brought this up, because once that story broke, people again lost their minds. There was a little bit of a dip in the market. They're like, oh my God, they're going to start to tax us on unrealized tax gains. Meaning, if you bought Bitcoin for 5,000, then it went up to 50,000, and it's just sitting there, you haven't sold it. Like, you owe us, $45,000. Little math here. $45,000 right now, even though you haven't sold it. Like, what the heck? I can't. And just like Shehan said, well, if you could do the unrealized tax gains, then you can also do unrealized tax losses. And guess what's going to happen there? Well, we're probably going to win in that situation. So again, remember, we don't even have the facts right now. And you see everybody just kind of selling, panic selling, because they want to get, they're like, well, I got to sell everything now. And I just don't think that people who have been around the block for a bit of time probably are like, you know what, I'll wait it out, because I've seen this whole dog and pony show before. The last question, which I don't know if you can answer this, but because, Shehan, with all the different tax laws that come about, I mean, you see them all come through, but over time, let's say that let's say this actually gets through the House of Representatives, right? Yeah, okay, sure. And then it goes through the Senate, and Senate just says, you know what, up and down, straight up and down, we're going to pass this law. And then, there's a tiebreaker and whatever else, and it actually goes through. If that law goes through this year, the question I have is, and this is a debate, will they retro it to the very beginning of the year, or could it go in effect that day, or could it go in effect to later on? And that's if they even push this through. That's the big question.
Yeah, it's highly unlikely they're going to introduce laws that are retroactively affected. Like, it's very unlikely, because it's unfair for the taxpayer, and so many other reasons. If something were to happen, it will most likely be effective starting January 1st, 2022. And people will have, okay amount of time to kind of plan their taxes. And if they had to sell stuff, they would have time to do it before those new laws go into effect.
Perfect. So just as my prediction goes, I always said, hey, the bull run's going to end in December. So, hey, maybe this will actually push my prediction all the way there. All right, Shehan, hey, man, I know you're busy. This is tax season. If you are looking for a qualified crypto CPA, this is my man, Shehan. I definitely trust him. If you got a lot of different questions, or you want to work with somebody who's like, hey, I got a lot of things going on in cryptocurrency and my business and my personal, reach out to Shehan. I'm going to link his information in the description below. And that is it. Shehan, thanks for coming by. We really appreciate it. Any last words of wisdom for everybody who's freaking out?
Just don't panic. And nothing has been finalized, and we don't even know the specifics. It's just a proposal.
Okay, sounds good. Thanks, Shehan. We appreciate it.
All right,
let's jump back.
Okay.
All right, so I hope that helped. So look, this could take a little bit of time to really sort out. Again, we don't have all the information, and I will just say, just relax. It's not going to be the end of the world. And like we talked about, who knows what it actually could be, but the final product, I think, is going to be a lot different than what we just heard about. Anyhow, if you liked today's video, do me a favor, hit the thumbs up. That helps tremendously. Also consider subscribing. A lot of things to talk about are time sensitive, just like what we talked about today. And that is it for this episode. So thanks so much for stopping by. I appreciate it. See you on the next one.